Welcome to the Miami International Autodrome. This place brought F1 back to Florida for the first time in over 60 years, and it's about to hold round two of the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup North America. The bar was set extremely high in round one, with the win coming down to a mere 6 thousandths of a second. But that's not the only action that happened, so let's take a quick look at some of the highlights from round one. Green flag is out and Xander Reed is on the loud pedal. He'll have Mitchell de Jong. Two is outside trying to challenge him, but who is going to make it to the first corner first as we go three, almost four wide behind him? My goodness, they are aggressive at the start here, but it looks like Mitchell de Jong is going to get a nose just ahead. Is this where Polisek got turned? Oh, there was problems in front of him and was trying to avoid it. And it almost looks like he got a little bit of help, but I think it was already spinning by the time he got touched. Look at this, down into Cunningham. My goodness, they're still looking at three wide.
Yeah, one gone, and it's Jordan there, and
Two
it's
gone.
Two cars off the road. One of them from Solpec there, Max Muir.
The Jean Debian curves down to Lamar. Oh, getting the inside curve, unfortunately popping the car up, and the 39 of Landry is sent flying out to the grass. Going wheel to wheel down through Collier. This is a spot where you usually don't want to try and do that. He gets a wheel off into the grass, and that's what sent the pair of them into the tires.
Here's the move. It's Troncoso on the brakes, and just because he made the move, there's the WSR car to the inside that catches the other WSR car. Now he is wounded, and I think every driver behind notes it. He doesn't have the black and orange mechanical flag showing. Move through Collier, dive down the inside. They are fiercely swarming around him. Round he goes, made ties with the contact. Everyone just about avoids it. No, bang! In goes Carl Cesare.
And the safety car releases them. There's a couple drivers making quite a jump behind them. They're going to pop to the inside of the first corner. Big run coming up the inside. I believe that might be Parker White as we go four wide for second place. And it's going to be Manuel Troncoso, who is all the way to the outside. Cars in the grass as they're trying to find racing room down to three.
Struggling now. His tires are hyperheated now. 1, 2, 3. They're all going to go across. Big accident there. Rasmussen caught up then to make it stick, and he's trying to push him out, and he gives him a full hip check, straight back, across the road, under the Gurney Bridge, and everyone scatters to try and avoid. I think Paul Darling's been caught out in it as well.
Xander Reed looks to the inside. Is it going to be a last lap pass? He's going to try and stick it in there, and he does manage to take the apex away just. It's going to be a battle to the finish line. It's a drag race as de Jong has the outside. Is that enough momentum? A nose ahead for Xander Reed. It is going to be also close at the line. Who gets it? Mitchell de Jong by 6 thousandths of a second for the first ever race. It was quite the introduction for a new series. And once again, I'm Joe Peak, joined by Jake Sperry to bring you the action here at Miami. Of course, behind the scenes, we'll have Christian Duploy directing with Daniel Costello assisting and Dougie Beard on the cameras. Jake, like I said, the bar is set high. My goodness, we saw all kinds of incredible racing out there, and it looked like the drivers were extremely hungry for success.
This isn't just a high bar. This is like Mondo Duplantis levels of high bar that you've got to try and clear. This is a really strong strength of field out there. When you're looking around, you're seeing drivers who are with their iRacing ELO is 7,000, 8,000, 9,000, 10,000. The resumes of these drivers, both within the real world and within virtual, are simply stellar. So you put down on the paper and say, you let the best go out there and race, you're only going to get fireworks, and that's what we saw at Sebring in round one. Now as we move over to Miami, racing around the Hard Rock Stadium, I think round two is going to be just as difficult to get right because of the nature of what a wonderful track this is.
Yeah, it's definitely different because it's kind of got two faces to it. It's an F1 track. It's got a lot of paved runoff in places, and yet they've done it like a street course. So the walls are right next to the track itself and a lot of other spots. So Attrition could be high today. We'll have to wait and see how the drivers will handle it. And as we heard Jake mention, there are some real-world drivers that are competing, and we'll even see a driver in the actual Carrera Cup North America in a little bit later on this season, as well as in our track guide itself. But Jake, we've already got the points down for this first one, so we kind of get a feel for things, but one data point does not representation make. I think we're going to see a few changes.
Look, we both know and understand, and I think everyone at home will do as well. Just because you found one checkered flag doesn't mean that you can be crowned champion. You can't sit down and say, look, stop everything, that's it, season's over, it's done, I've got the victory. You got to sit back and realize that in order to win in a forest of races, you've got to plant some trees. And so out there in the racing that we've got, you look at Mitchell de Jong, yeah, he won the race. He's leading the championship. But if he thinks that he can win 5 more races by a margin of 6 thousandths of a second or less, he knows he's in a really strong fight. His teammates know he's in a really strong fight. And so I think everyone knows, if that's how close the gap is at Sebring, I think there's a handful of drivers chomping at the bit to say, look, we're going to get in there and we're going to fight for a championship.
They will indeed. Now, speaking of that championship, as we take a look at the calendar here, it did start off at Sebring, as we mentioned, but now we are here for round 2 at Miami. Obviously, the real drivers will be going to Long Beach for the Carrera Cup, as Watkins Glen will be our 3rd round. And then we hit Road America with Indianapolis and Road Atlanta to round things out for a 6-race season. No breaks between all 6 weeks on this one. It is non-stop. But let's take a look at Miami and see what it holds from above here, Jake.
Yeah, this is a wonderful circuit. 19 turns, 5.4 kilometers, 3.36 miles, and it has 2 different phases to it. So you've got the flowing start to the lap when you go through 1, 2, and 3. By the time you exit turn number 8, you've got the long back stretch to go and deal with as you charge adjacent to Honey Hill Drive and Northwest 199th Street. You'll find, though, as you get over towards the Florida Turnpike, that it gets very technical as you go through 11 to 16, passing underneath then the access road, and then driving aggressively along 203rd Street before reaching Carl F. Barger Boulevard. And then that's those final 3 turns. That great turn 17 is the last place to go and get an overtake done. It's going to be very, very aggressive out there and racing around a stadium that has broke ground in 1987 and, quite critically, Joe, hosted many things, including the precursor to the legendary Pop-Tart Bowl.
What a claim to fame. As we take a look at the standings after the first race, don't forget we have bonus points for pole and for the fastest lap. Xander Reed took that pole bonus point, and it was Andrew Caron who took the fastest lap. But it was Mitchell de Jong who came away with the win, as we mentioned, by incredibly small margins. So he leads the way. Watch out for both he and Xander of the Coanda team, who look to be strong, but Parker White and Kai Diel from the Williams Esports team, they had to fight their way up to get to those 4th and 6th positions, Jake, as we take a look at our competitors who unfortunately didn't make it to the points.
Well, this is the thing, when only 15 score points and you've got drivers out there who are doing what they can, 40 to try and hold. Everyone who's looking down this order is realizing, yeah, we didn't score points last round. So basically, we start on 0 still, and we've got to try and overhaul the points at a disadvantage. It's a lot of work to do. Michael Gianni, I think, is one that I'm shocked to see down with no points, and same could be said for the likes, say, of Aiden Young.
So they'll be eager today to try and do better. This is round 2, as we mentioned. If this is your first time, it's only going to be a 40-minute race. There's no set pit stops because of that. It is a sprint. It is also a fixed setup, and they don't have a spare car. So if you break it, you bought it. And we saw a few of those last time out. It is a rolling start, as they often do in North America. We have live stewards watching the action. And then also the iRacing incident limit is in effect. So if you get 20, you have a drive-through, and there's our bonus points, as we mentioned as well at the bottom. But let's head to our onboard lap to see how we get around here.
Hey everyone, Aaron Johnson here to give you a track walkthrough of Miami International Autodrome, the Formula One circuit. We're coming down the front straight into turn one. We're going to use all the track here on the left, get close to the 100 board for our brake point. A little bit of a late apex and slightly compromised exit as we set up for turns 2 and 3. Big priority here is to get a really good exit out of turn 3 with a little bit longer straightaway down to turn 4. We're going to have a light to medium brake in turn 4 and hook our left front tire around the apex curve of turn 4 to help us rotate, and then get ahead of these S's coming up in turns 5, 6, 7. A big priority here is an exit of turn 8. We want to be early on the throttle and all the way on the limit on the exit of turn 8 onto this really long straightaway. Turns 9 and 10, at least in the dry, are really part of a straightaway here. So we want to keep shortest distance, hug the inside of the track for both of these turns as we come up to turn 11. We want to brake as deep as possible into turn 11. We're going to get close to the 150 board here, down to second gear. And into turn 12, we want to make sure that we turn in before we brake to help us rotate here. Long corner, but we want to focus on this exit all the way down to turn 14. And 15, 16, we want to focus on using this curb a little bit late in 15, keeping the car settled, down to first gear in 16, getting the best exit we can onto the other longest straightaway around the track. And this one is very straight. We can read a book, we can have a cup of coffee, but we're coming into one of the most important corners of the track, the hairpin, turn 17. Again, we're going to look for the 150 board here, using all the track on the right, braking as hard and late as we can down to first gear, pointing the car, getting the best exit that we can onto the front straight. But it's not entirely straight. We have turns 18 and 19 here. We want to scrub as little as possible and make sure that we have the best run onto the straight. That was a lap around Miami.
Big thanks to Aaron Johnson for providing those laps. As we mentioned earlier, he is racing in the Real World Porsche Carrera Cup North America, and actually had a pretty good weekend. If you don't want spoilers, I guess if for a week-old race, he managed to finish in second and third back at Sebring. So double podium, good way to start his season. We'll see whether or not he can back that up when we get to the virtual series, when he's able to spend some time. For now, he has to put that aside for his real world career, which is understandable, Jake. But like we were saying, a lot of experience out here. One that comes to mind, Mitchell de Jong, comes from rallycross backgrounds in real world racing. So we got quite a bit of different experience as we take a look at them.
Yeah, so all sorts of different drivers who have come from all different walks of life find themselves together and push. We've got NASCAR champions. We've got drivers who have had a lot of experience out there in the sim racing world. We've got sim racers out there who have got a real world racing habit as well to go along with it. We've got the whole bunch out there. If you're looking to fill your bingo card, you've probably got at least 3 lines sorted as they sit in the fringe ends of practice here. They'll have about a minute and a half left before they'll head over to the 15 minutes of open qualifying to try and get their time in and sorted. So this is really the last chance to understand what they have underneath them with their car, how they can maximize a couple more corners, transfer the weight through various sections of a circuit that, if we're going to be quite honest, Joe, wouldn't have had many series run on it. So you look around at these iRacers, they might be some of the people in the world who have the most experience in these types of cars running at this sort of track.
Absolutely. And this is not just a track that's relatively new in the real world, but here in the sim was only introduced a couple seasons ago. So we might not have as many drivers who have raced around here before. In fact, we got a couple new names that haven't raced in the series yet, even though it's only round 2. Daniel Ferguson jumping in for this time. Thomas Belleman, who wasn't able to join us in round 1, is now here today for this event. Thomas, another real world driver, racing in the Zenith series over in the ZP2 class a couple weeks ago in Sonoma. But this is going to have significantly less downforce on the car here in the 911 GT3 Cup. Looks like practice is about 15 seconds to switching over to qualifying. Open qualifying in this one with some seriously long straights, Jake. Are we going to see any teammate shenanigans, you think, to try and steal a slipstream?
Oh, of course you are. This is the Porsche Carrera Cup North America, the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup North America. Of course, the teams that have put themselves in together are going to help each other on the straight. That is the equivalent of a couple tenths of a second here or there. And in a field as tight as this, Joe, that's the difference between first or 10th. So I would not be shocked to see that out there. And I tell you what will be interesting for everyone out there. It's not just who goes out there together, it's who you're with. And I've just looked out of the pit and I see 3 Coanda Esports cars on track together.
There you go. They got 15 minutes here. It is open qualifying, as we were talking about, so everybody can get out on track at once. But you do need to get the laps in quickly. And yeah, it is already looking very congested, as everyone's going to have to try and make some space for themselves if they're not around a car that they think they can be faster than. The margin between first and I believe 32nd or 33rd at the end of qualifying last week was 1.2 seconds. 30 plus cars split by that much. That is how competitive it is here.
It is one of the strongest fields out there. You've got to remember, this is just what North America can bring to the table. Just imagine when the rest of the world decides to function itself up together and run through. Drivers like Manu Troncoso there for Drago Racing is just trying to give as much room as possible out there. And there'll be some teams out there, the big teams, that'll be looking around at today as we focus with Troncoso. They'll be looking at today and thinking, this is going to be really tough for them in terms of the load management of the week, because they're sitting on the fact that they've got the iRacing Sebring 12-hour, which will be coming up later this weekend. So this would have taken time out of their practice schedules to get them into racing like this. And maybe it is going to throw up maybe a couple of surprises from certain drivers or certain teams that have less of a focus on what will go on Saturday for what they need to get right now.
Yeah, I hope you've got your throat lozenges ready, Jake, because I understand you're going to be calling a bunch of that 12-hour race, so best of luck on that. But we see them, wow, still not separated very much, as everybody is still warming their tires at this phase to try to get them up to temperature on their first flying lap, as the drivers now cross that timing beam and take their way down into the first corner. Sean Campbell, someone who had to fight back up through the field last time out, and is going to see if he can maybe do a little bit less of that as he takes the 26 around, following some of the fiercely forward cars.
Well, I'd have that face if I was lunged down the inside at turn 1 on my first qualifying lap as well. You can see he's chatting as he goes through turns 4 and 5 and looks to try and work up the courage into 6, 7 and 8. And so you're looking around there at the grid and go car there, and you go, well, I wanted a good lap. I now won't get one. I now need to gear up for the next one.
Exactly. And obviously you're going to see a lot of purple on these sectors as we watch drivers continue to try and pick up time, because this is their first time lap, so there's not much to compare it against in the session. But then later on, we're going to be watching that like a hawk, especially because with this being fixed setup, that means that they have to burn off the fuel to get to their quickest lap times. You still want to try and push as fast as you can earlier in the qualifying, but you can't bin it. You have to stay in it all the way through quali so that down towards the end, you can set your fastest lap.
Which means that as you sit with this early lap, you're looking around at it, and the job really is to just get the pace up and don't do anything too silly. The one thing they'll also be managing as well with that is the fact that they will have all of this fuel that they've got to try and get out of the car to get these Porsche 992.2s as light as possible, at the same time not churning through the tyre quick enough so that they don't lose the best of the tyre life. So it is a very awkward scenario here that asks you, how light are you going to be in your turning while keeping the overall pace up? I think that's the key. Ross O'Connor fastest over the line then with a 154.3. That's about half a second off the pace of what he did in practice.
I saw Parker White also looking incredibly quick in that practice session, so we'll see where he winds up placing his car. Actually, it was not a good first lap for him. It was only 19th at one point. It is quickly being shuffled backwards as we get more and more laps on the board. Xander Reed, good enough for P2. Actually split by almost 0.2 of a second. That's a much bigger gap than we're used to seeing up front.
Yes, because it is the early stages, and so drivers will hold a little bit back in order to just sort of ease into the lap. So you'll start at about 90% of what you're capable of. You'll go to 95, 97, 98, 100, and then you'll give your final lap 110% and see if you've got it. I mean, you look at this from Ross O'Connor. He was trying to eye up a way through on Xander Reed there in towards that very, very difficult section of road. And so you're sitting down and saying, okay, turn 11 is going to be the key place that we're going to be seeing passes, and it's clear you can have a lot of run. And look at how much travel there was from Xander Reed going over the curbs at the one-line suits all chicane of 14 and 15 there, Joe. That's going to be huge to try and deal with, how these drivers will have a lot of bounce as they go over the curbs, and they're going to have to wait for the car to settle before they can grip up and take that wide arcing line into turn 16.
And let's remember, we might have some viewers who aren't as used to iRacing. The way that it works in the sim, if you cut the course, so if you miss that chicane and shortcut it, it's not a 3 strikes and you're out thing like you're used to seeing maybe in Formula One. In this case, in the sim, if it knows you cut the circuit, because it will have markers, it will check that, it will automatically ask you to give time back. Often that's about a second's worth that they'll ask you. It'll automatically show you a gauge that you have to slow down. So it'll be crucial for these drivers not to wind up going too far over the limit at chicanes. Yeah, it looks like there's a number of drivers that are not happy with where they're positioned right now.
No, and you get this quite a bit where you're trying to get the best toe of the cars in front, and everybody in that Xander Reed group is slowing down. Here's Antoine Lecharité, then trying to work through turn 6 and, well, 5 now into 6, and this triple left here with 7 and 8, and you're just trying to get off of the exit of the corner here through turn 8 and decide, yes, I'm going to now get this launch along this long run around the south side of the parking lot here, around here, this Miami circuit. Of course, there is standing up on the right-hand side in the early part of the straight there, Joe, that's used when the Miami Open tournament that comes through for the tennis comes into play. So there is always a little something going on here in Miami Gardens. And so as they run through this amphitheater-style section now, as we go back to Manu Troncoso, who's down all the way in 14th place on the 54.7 at the moment, you're really trying to understand the personality of a circuit like this. And I think it does a really good job of showing what a street circuit can be, because this isn't just your case of the traditional American 90-degree left into the 90-degree right. This has a lot of personality to it.
Yeah, it is a fascinating racetrack that they've built out of this. Usually when you say that a track has been built out of a parking lot, you think there's not going to be much to it. Well, I think they managed to prove that one wrong, as Raggioni here in 16th. Again, look at all the cars trying to stay out of the way. And that is part of the live stewarding as well. They are watching out to make sure that you do not impede anybody. So if you find you're not on a quick lap, you probably want to pull out of the way of other cars.
And we are seeing now drivers in very interesting positions. Logan Raggioni then going up to 5th position. Jordan Johnson at the moment for his run at this stage. He's fastest for Solpec at this stage, so he's going to be very happy with the work. Dalton Zavadil is 3rd at the moment, so this is a real change from what we've seen. You know, you got Guillaume Levesque in 6th, Kevin Desnoyers, he only got 1 point at the season opener. He's up there in 7th place, so you're turning around, you're saying who is where. If you've got Xander Reed there in 10th, and you've got basically nowhere Mitchell de Jong 26th at this moment in time, you're turning around and saying you need the magic lap. You need the magic lap very, very soon.
Yeah, only 6 minutes left to go, so probably about 3 more laps available, with them being just shy of 2 minutes for most drivers. And I am a bit surprised to see Mitchell as far down as he is. That could change. Xander Reed, as I mentioned, took the pole last time, and all 3 of those Coanda cars are still together. They're just in front of, as we're watching on board there with Lecharité, as we check out Michael Janney now. The 23, about 600ths off of the pole time, coming around to set another lap. Purple first sector did not improve on the second sector. Let's see what the third holds.
Well, if you've got a purple first sector, you didn't quite get what you needed from the second. You really need to gather it back up for the final run forward. Has no help then in terms of slipstream, just the clean air in front to try and get to the line. And that is Xander Reed going quickest. And then Mitchell de Jong on top of that. Le Charité goes up to third, and suddenly it's all changed there at the front with Gianni unable to improve, goes fifth fastest. Sean Campbell now up to sixth. Parker White going ninth. So they are looking at these big laps, and look at the effort that they have to go. We talk about drivers looking to try and hit what Ayrton Senna would call flow state, where they are driving at such a level where they become one with the car. And so around a circuit like this, you are trying to get as close to the walls as you possibly can, Joe, without touching upon them, because if you touch the walls, you get a 0x instant point in the iRacing system, and even a 0x is enough to invalidate the lap.
You mentioned Aiden Young needs a good result. Well, he's got Nathan Olson in front of him right now, and he's almost looking like he wants to try and pass him here in this qualifying lap to get himself some clear air. Let's see if he actually does try and send it down to the braking as he sides to the inside, and yes, he does.
So he had to go shallow here, and so they're crossing over, and it's not often that you get to see passing in qualifying, but if you feel like you're being held up, you've got to do what you've got to do, and so that was very much a need. Under the Florida Turnpike, they go and into the left of turn 16 to get the drive. Campbell with a purple middle sector here right now in the gridandgo.com number 26. He has been ragging on the back of Mitchell de Jong, who's the fastest car in qualifying at the moment, saying, look, if you're the fastest car and I'm holding on to your toe, I've got the best seat in the house for my qualifying. With 3:20 to go, they're going to have a couple laps left, and they're really trying to get that fuel burn as low as they possibly can. Over the line, de Jong improves, but Campbell's quicker, 53.8. He's fastest for the moment.
And was quickest of anybody in that middle sector as well. And that is, I think, mostly, yeah, that is the long straight coming down into the braking of 11. So apparently very good on the exit of turn 7. Whoa, as we had one car off there at the hairpin.
Abandoned ship, and that is never a great sign when you have to go straight on there at turn 17. So awkward for Anthony Landry there, who had gone way out of the way. And when you get right up there with the crash structure that's down to that section, it's tight. He had to do a 3-point turn to get himself back out of there again, Joe.
Thankfully, he's got enough time to get back around for another lap. There's a whole bunch of cars, I think, on a cool-down lap, it looks like, just trying to stay out of the way. It is looking incredibly mixed up out there. This is Mitchell de Jong still sitting in second, with Sean Campbell from Grid and Go Esports now taking that away from him. But you talked about maybe them needing to worry a little bit. I don't think there was any worry in that Coanda team.
There's no worry, but they're not on pole at the moment, and that would be what they're trying to get out of every race, is a pole position, a fastest lap, a victory, everything under the sun, basically a grand slam if they can manage it. But you're sitting back and trying to find some space. What we're noting as well here, Joe, is the fact that it's 2 quick laps to 1 cool lap.
Interesting. Yeah, I was noticing the cool laps out there. Did not notice that they can manage to get 2 of them in, but they get one more chance essentially here, as they are going to reach the the line in time to put another one in, but that is it. So we'll reach 0 before they get around to start another after that. Parker White all the way down in 15th. Now, he and Kai Dial raced so well in that first race, but their qualifying was a little bit lacking, including, I think, an incident over the line before they started their final lap. So hopefully for Parker, this last one will actually put him in a little bit of a better position.
It certainly will be a case of hope here that a good qualifying is going to get there. Fastest in practice, but he hasn't been able to find that 53.2. He did a 54.3 as his best at the moment. He's only 15th. He wants a bit more. Le Charité at the moment had 3 green for sectors on that last lap, enough to put him to 4th. Charles-Etienne Boucher up in 5th, can only go as good as 5th. Gregory Hoverson right now in 6th position as well. So there are some really good drivers coming out of the woodworks here at the moment. And again for Le Charité, a green first sector. Car slow on the left-hand side, Floyd Kerr well out of the way then as they'll run through 10 and now over towards turn 11 on the brakes. And he's got just the right amount of tow here as the clock is about to expire. Xander Reed is the car in front for Le Charité.
And it is going to be Aiden Pohl who will be the last one to be able to cross the line, but it looks like he's abandoned his lap. So it's no longer him. I'll have to check and see who the next one is. I think the number 38 will be the final driver to be able to cross the line to take the checkered flag. But as the number 5 backs out, the 71 looking strong here at the front of this group. We're riding on board with Antoine in that number 21 machine. Aiden Young will be the first driver to collect the checkered flag in this qualifying session. He's down in 23rd. Will he improve? Sean Campbell no longer out on track to try and defend his pole position. Some drivers actually diving into pit lane now to get out of the way, and it's not an improvement for Aiden Young. Meanwhile, Xander Reed moves up onto the front row. Mitchell de Jong has put it up to 3rd, but it is not a lockout from Coanda like last time.
It isn't, and this is where it's getting really tough to deal with. Guy Levesque hoping to try and find a place better than 19th. No, has to dive down into the pits. Up goes Parker White to 4th. Oh, look at the frustration there. Chucks it in the pit entry. Then he goes through, but it's 4th for Parker White. Critical on that attempt, but that will be that for qualifying with only Aiden Young now around out there on circuit. It pays to be in the right train at the right time here in Miami.
Oof. This is going to be a fascinating one when we get to the racing proper. Looks like we have a couple cars that are just kind of carrying on around, but that is officially it. I think everybody has crossed the line and completed their qualifying laps. 36 cars to take part in today's race. We'll see if we can go green on this one as well, as we had one full course yellow last time out. And just so our audience understands, those yellows are not random. Those will be put out according to a metric that must be met by cars having an incident out on track. They're looking at things such as a track blockage or how many cars are involved. And once it reaches the threshold that they're looking for, then the yellow will be thrown. But that is up to the drivers to keep it clean. We'll see, Jake, whether or not they can go green the whole way this time.
Well, if you're looking for that, you're needing a little bit of space. And I don't think you're going to get any in this one, Joe, because all 36 cars today are split by 1.1 seconds in qualifying.
Oh, my goodness. It's even closer than last time. Yes, it's a slightly shorter lap, but not by much. The drivers are improving each and every time out. But with qualifying done, we'll now get ready to grid up, take our lap around, and then we'll be on our way as we get ready for round 2 here in the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup North America. So without further ado, I believe we'll get to the grid here in just a moment and hopefully get to see some fantastic Florida action just outside the Hard Rock Stadium where F1 races each and every year. Up at the top, it is going to be Sean Campbell, as Xander Reed will be second next to him. Then on the second row, you will see Mitchell de Jong flanking Parker White with a better qualifying this time out. We'll see if he can capitalize on that. Antoine La Charité will start from P5 with Charles-Etienne Boucher, making it a Canadian row number 3. P7 will be Gregory Hoverson, flanked by Jordan Johnson to his outside. Then in row 5, ninth will be the Coanda driver of Michael Yanni and Ross O'Connor rounding out the top 10, Jake.
Alex Johnson then will have Dalton Zavadil alongside, fiercely forward then on row 6 of the grid. 13th will be Danish Hassan and Aidan Poe. He's got a lot of fans out there. He's the content creator. He will go from 14th. It's 15th for Floyd Kerr with Andrew Caron there for the World Sim Racing team in 16th, as row 9 will look to house Manuel Troncoso's a little out of position and Logan Ragione. Your top 20 then rounded out by Guillaume Levesque there in 19th and Kevin Desnoyers there in 20th.
In 21st, it's going to be Jaden Munoz in the number 95 machine. Anthony Landry will be to his outside on row 11. 23rd then sees Christian Moniz starting next to Aiden Young in the 24th position. After that, Kai Dial did not have a good qualifying. Seems to be a bit of a weakness from him in this series, as Jean-Edouard Maillot will start from 26th. 27th goes to George Griffiths, and then William Rasmussen starting in 28th. Then row 15 sees Paul Darling starting to the inside and Daniel Ferguson to the outside, Jake.
Yep, on to row 16, where Leonardo Dragotta and Thomas Billerman are there in 31st and 32nd positions. And then to 33rd, you will have Michael Polasek rather than Aiden Young, and Nathan Olsen there in 34th, meaning the final row, just 1.1 seconds back on 54.9 to Aaron Myers and Jordan Eyre, who will have to go and get everything he can from the back of this pack. As we note, it is a rolling start here today, and a rolling start as well on what is a 27 degrees Celsius temperature. So you're talking about sort of mid to high 80s out there track temperature. I would look around at that and say, this is a perfect morning to go racing.
Yeah, about 80 Fahrenheit for the non-metric friends out there watching, which is pretty good track temperatures as they take off on their way around the pace lap for this one. The Porsche safety car will release them once they get down to those last couple corners. But for now, it'll be about preparing, getting ready, trying to warm those brakes and tires enough for when we get the green flag. And then it will be 40 minutes of racing. I see Sean Campbell up at the front. And I can't help but smile a little bit because before seeing Sean race in these Porsches, I got to call races with him in the IMSA Vintage Series here on iRacing before. So a driver that likes to hop into some older cars from time to time and give it a go.
Sean is the sort of driver that will take anything in front of him, and if it fascinates him to drive it, he'll drive it to the very best of his abilities. He is a wonderful world-class driver who can get the best out of any situation, and so you look at him and go, he will do any race, any time, with any drivers, and he will, and that's probably part of the philosophy there that's got him about as sky high as those cable cars.
That's a good way of putting it, and seeing them head under there down towards the braking of turn 11. That's where one of the more technical parts of the track starts here, Jake. I am a bit worried because the walls are close there. I'm kind of hoping those first few laps we manage to stay clean.
Well, my worry is going to be that this back stretch is not exactly straight. It winds about a little bit as you go through. And so what you'll have is drivers looking to try and pivot and pinch and go 2 wide, 3 wide into sections. If one car just finds a catch front to rear on another car out there, you're going to see a massive chain reaction that will go through the entire pack. You've got to be very, very cautious at a street circuit. The margins are finer, they're thinner, they're more difficult, and you have to be very well behaved out there. It takes a lot of trust to run a street circuit, and as we already know, 5 seconds of penalty now are going to come in of qualifying infringement, and that is car number 62 that has got that, and that, critically, is Manuel Troncoso from Drago Racing.
Interesting. Well, that's not going to make him too happy once we get racing here, which is going to be pretty soon because we're already on that long back straight coming down into turn 16. And now if you haven't got the cars prepped, the tires and the brakes prepped, then you're probably not going to be ready for this race. There you see the race control message, minor contact responsibility, 5 seconds for car 10. Remember, there's no scheduled pit stops on that, so that'll be added to them post-race. Already the driver or the stewards really watching out on this, Jake.
They are. That's Logan Ragione, who's got those 5 seconds worth of penalty. So he'll have to manage that to the best of his ability. Inside then, so right-hand side for Sean Campbell. He will get the inside to defend when that Porsche iRacing first safety car dives in, as it will do now.
Control being given over to Sean. He has to wait for the green flag here, and they have to stay in their columns. It's going to be a bit hard as they do have this weaving back and forth. There is the green flag as we head down to turn 1, and it's already 4 wide at the front. My goodness, and the Coanda car is absolutely swamping Sean. He gets a little shot from the back. That's going to send him a bit wide, but Mitchell de Jong will come out with the lead once again at the first corner.
Huge one in the middle. Troncoso's caught up in it. There's about 7 or 8 different cars that are caught up in a flat one instant through turn 2. You got Danish Hassan's in there, Guy Levesque. Jaden Munoz has been held up with it. Floyd Kerr as well is there and involved. I wouldn't be shocked if this is an immediate safety car here on the opening lap of this race. But critically, as they run through turn 8, there's no troubles out in front. It was a bit of ping pong, but Mitchell de Jong and Zander Reed, your 2 protagonists from round 1, are at the front again.
Mitchell seems to be a bit of a specialist at these starts, which shouldn't come as a surprise with that rallycross background. But Michael Yanni sitting in 7th is fighting with Aiden Pohl, who's got the inside coming down into the braking of turn 11. In fact, a little bit of side-by-side in front of them as well. That's going to cause some contact.
It is Pohl a little deep on the brakes, and so that was going to be tough. That's allowed the inside, turns to the outside now for Michael Janney. He holds steady at single file, giving up the line. But where do you want to be? Aiden Pohl gets shuffled out then, and he'll lose 1. He'll maybe lose 2 through turn 16. Then as now it's going to be Charles-Etienne Boucher up there. But I do note as well that Aiden Pohl made about 9 places up on the start, but the caution flag is out, which means we are under safety car conditions here.
I'm going to take a stab that may have been for that opening corner incident, or at least opening couple of corners. Certainly were a lot of cars involved, as you mentioned, through 2 and 3, it looked like. We'll see if we can get a second look at that at some point. This will slow things down, and we'll back the field up once more. Coanda 1-2 once again. Sean Campbell moving from 1st to 3rd, as here is that incident coming out of turn 2. And I don't even know how to dissect that. It looked like it was 4 wide into there still.
Well, I think you got to start with Manu Troncoso, really, because he got pushed wide at turn 1. He was trying to rejoin back onto the circuit. It funnels and tightens in through turn number 2, Joe. And the moment that you take a car that's on the outside, trying to squeeze itself back onto circuit, everyone's then got to shuffle over. That's what creates that front to rear contact. And then one car spins, you get a smoke screen, then you get 5 or 6 who find themselves pointing the wrong way down to the inside. Very tough to deal with in the opening corners, and they would have been told in the race control briefing to be very careful of that exact thing, because sight line at turn 2, bare minimum when you're pretty much pinned to that inside.
For Logan Ragione, this caution came at a critically horrible time for him, because if he could have gotten around and served that penalty before the yellow was thrown, he would have cleared that and been brought back into the pack. Now he has to wait until the green to be able to serve his penalty, as that's going to be a little bit frustrating without a doubt. Meanwhile, we did have a couple victims that wound up with meatball flags, Danish Hassan and George Griffiths, both taking repairs. As we got another replay, let's take a look at this.
I think this has happened just before the start of this race. So this is with Guy Levesque here, who is in the middle of this group. And, oh, let's pay attention, not. That's a massive pile up then as they were getting themselves set on the formation lap. One car was backwards, trying to go through. There was another one waiting to try and get back into the line, which would have made things doubly awkward just before the green. So I wouldn't have been shocked if maybe some drivers would have been caught out and potentially got a penalty for passing cars underneath the formation lap if they weren't too careful. So very clumsy off of the get-go, and it just looked like someone wasn't expecting it to check up that much. Then as they go through, a live look at Mitchell de Jong, and his MO right now here, Joe, if I was him, get the tyre temperature up.
Absolutely. They do have to wait until any potential wave rounds. I don't think they'll have those, but they should be allowed to warm those tires once we get to the final pacing lap. Let's take another look at the start itself, because I am kind of amazed at the jump that both of the Coanda cars managed to get. Look, he pops out, but it is definitely after the line. Just seemed to have timed it about perfect. And with him sandwiched in, Sean can't do anything, especially when he gets a shot in the back from the 21, it looked like. And so he had to give up the ghost, and eventually Xander also managed to sneak by during this lap.
Well, Coanda would have looked at it being on the front row and gone, well, how do we try and coordinate this and get the jump when you've got as many members as Coanda do, and they have the ability to put all the practice sessions that they do up? That would have been something they would have looked at and practiced. How do we get the best start possible to get our cars up there? That was perfectly jumped from Xander Reed to get him up to second, but critically, it forced 4 wide into turn 1 here at Miami, and somehow that didn't end up in tears. It did behind them. So obviously, wonderful racecraft to make sure that they were able to hold themselves together. We do have a car in the pits, and it is Kevin De Neuer.
Interesting. And yeah, it looks like also Dalton Zavadil is in pit lane now. So I wonder if he had a little bit of lasting damage from before that he's trying to get repaired and get back out there. So 2 drivers joining those who had to come in for repairs. Jaden Munoz and Guy Levesque also had a visit to pit lane. It looks like, I think, just a bit of repairs for them as well. We're down to about 33 minutes left, so probably on the restart, 31 minutes. Our sprint race is about to come even more of a sprint.
Well, they're taking time off the clock, which I think is really critical here for a start of a race. You're always looking to try and make the race as easy as possible. And I think the moment they got a single file start, the 2 Coanda drivers, 1 and 2, they can coordinate to try and jump away. You're not going to see it as aggressive from the cars behind. They're not going to get as much of a launch off of the get-go to get down to the inside, not like what they did when they were filed up 2 wide as they run. But I think you're going to have to start asking, who's going to be making places? Who's going to be happy with where they are at the moment? I'd look down in the pack. There are drivers like Anthony Landry, Kai DL, Aiden Young, who are up 8, 8, and 10 places. So make that 26 places gained for those 3 drivers.
Wow. Yeah, I'm looking down there myself now, and there's definitely those who took advantage. And your point about the wreck there on the pacing lap did have me thinking, I wonder if that is what caused the current black flag that we have for Ragione, that he still needs to serve, and if whether or not the stewards will decide to clear that, if it was for that. But I'm just kind of spitballing at this point to try to figure out what exactly was the cause on that one. It is going to hurt.
I just want to point, Joe, it wouldn't have been from the stewards. I'm just taking a look through the log right now, and there's been no steward pull of a penalty. That one was administered by the iRacing system. So,
yeah, then I think it would have been by that. But if he has to serve it, he's going to restart from 12th, but he's not going to stay there. And he's going to take a little bit of pain in the process. We should still have 34 cars that look like they are going to restart this one, with a few still catching up at the back. I think the 24 and the 44 should catch up right at the tail of the train, but the poor 95 of Jaden Munoz is still going to be running full tilt by the time we get the go from race control here on this restart, which is just about to find its way to the start-finish line. There is Guy, who is catching up, and we mentioned Zavadil as well, who we saw on the screen catching the tail of the train. Out of the final hairpin There is the pit car, or the pace car, into the pit reentry. And Mitchell de Jong now waits patiently. He and Xander Reed seem to have mastered these starts. Let's see what the restart looks like for them, as there is that green flag and they are off. Cars immediately trying to dive to the side to try and find position. Most of them defending to the inside. Coming down into turn one, we have a 3-wide restart anyways, and we got cars turned around.
It's carnage in the middle, and there's one upside down and has rolled out there, which I think may have been Landry out there who was in trouble. It was Anthony Landry rolling. Kai DL is one who's going to have to stop on the apex then at turn 2, which again is very troublesome out there on this start. And they do say that sometimes you do get safety cars, breeding safety cars. It's more of an oval saying than a road course saying, but they were very aggressive off the start. I looked at Jordan Johnson. He was very up there trying to get through. Bit of side-by-side now as you've got here the likes of Alex Johnson here, the second of the Johnsons in this group, trying to get through on Aidan Pohl, who's there in 9th, seeing Hoverson, Janney and White all together on the long run on the backstretch.
Yeah, Janney managed to take a position, I think, as Hoverson is going to try to do so. Same thing with Johnson coming down to the braking of turn 11. Hoverson, though, is actually going defensive, forcing a little bit of an offline move by Aidan Pohl. Johnson not able to capitalize. Now he's stuck around the outside of turn 12, long right-hander, before he's finally able to get back into line.
Yeah, and you have to be single file through here, and Alex Johnson knows it as you go through turn 16, as you drive back up onto Northwest 203rd Street here in Miami Gardens, and you try and work out, okay, now what do I need? Long straight, big braking zone, tight hairpin, it's everything you want, and a little bit more out there as they will look to hit the brakes. Xander Reed isn't going to be too worried, but behind that, there's the lunge down the inside on Jordan Johnson. That is La Charité there for the WSR team, getting the launch, and now we'll have half a car in front to start this next lap.
Antoine holds the outside coming into turn 1. Jordan Johnson to the inside. Parker White watching down 2 from where he began this race. He's going to be hungry to try and snatch that back, but he can't quite get the over-under on them. Although switching now into 3, he's got a good bit of momentum. It's a long set of S's sections. If he can make this stick here up through these quick left-right sequences, and he does just manage to get ahead.
Oh, perfect there. Round the outside of 4, inside of 5 for Parker White. He'll get that. And then you've got a chance then at 7 and 8 to then start trying to throw back. Let's take a look at that restart then and see exactly how it all went wrong off of the beginning here. So Landry in the middle. We'll see Carnage in front. So he's there in the middle, and there you can see the tip around just in front. He basically takes the massive hit, and then look at that. He just gets tipped up and over. It's the scariest feeling as a driver when you go upside down.
That was Boucher that was turned in front of him that he just clipped, and it was exactly the wrong spot, wheel-to-wheel contact that sent him over. Meanwhile, look at that side-by-side action between Bellarmine, who's up to 14th, and Aiden Young. Aiden manages to come out ahead in that one, but man, Bellarmine up 18 spots since the beginning.
Well, it just goes to show you how crazy the start of this race has been here, that a driver like Thomas Bellarmine has been able to save through. Now, there's also going to be, for an unsafe rejoin, a drive-through penalty on top of the penalty for Logan Ragione. He just come in, he just served his penalty, and he's now got another. When it rains, it pours out there for him, and I've never seen someone get into so much penalty trouble so quickly. Here goes Christian Muniz. Down to the inside then, he's going to get the run off the exit. Thank you very and much. A good pass there on Michael Polasek.
Polasek falls down to 18th position. We got another replay while Xander Reed sets the fastest lap of the race once again. Now that we get going proper out there, Aaron Myers loses control, flies backwards into the runoff of the chicane, but then has to wait patiently to rejoin.
Well, the good news is, being turned around like that, he would have had a complete sight line of where to rejoin. It would be very difficult to rejoin otherwise. Look at this, around Guy Levesque. at this point in time. You've got Boucher just behind him with Ross O'Connor and Jordan Eyre in the train. In front is Dalton Zavadil and Jean-Edouard Maillot. Now, keep note of Dalton Zavadil. If he took full service, he'd have a fresh set of tyres on, and look at the side-by-side. They're going to be too wide, too deep off the exit here, and Jean-Edouard is going to have to do all the best defending he possibly can side-by-side here as Levesque sees Ross O'Connor. Freight train wrong side. Boucher's trying to push his way through. Now we get more side-by-side.
The two Canadians hook up with a pump draft out there. And it looks like Boucher's going to try and help Guy to gain those positions. And look at this. We are 2 wide, 3 deep going into turn 12. They'll eventually get back to single file, although Charles Etienne is still trying to fight with Jordan Eyre, who eventually gives up the ghost.
You got to be so committed. That's a bumper off the front then, and it's okay. So it's still there for Guy Levesque, but obviously he's had a bit of a tag against it. In front of them, though, it's going very busy for 4th and 5th right now here, Joe, between Parker White and Jordan Johnson. They've allowed the top 3 of De Jong, Reed and Campbell to get away, and for the rest of the positions inside the top 10, they are scrapping with everything they've got as the battle of best of the rest.
Yeah, Parker White's trying to run away from them, but he still has Johnson, Charité, and Yanni all lined up behind him. Campbell doing a good job, frankly, of keeping the 2 Coanda cars honest, but it is indeed a 3-car breakaway at this stage. Watching from on board the Williams driver, you can see everybody breathing down his neck.
Yeah, and this wonderful camera here from the exhaust. Sometimes you can get camera angles here in iRacing you wouldn't necessarily be able to get in the real world, because you'll need a lot of heat tolerance from a camera that's sat directly underneath the exhaust, then through turn 8 and trying to get the run off the exit. You can see here, it looks like there's a tiny bit of bottling up here for Jordan Johnson. He's got to be very careful about that, and he keeps the cadence up. The Charité's going to want to get through, and it's not going to be a charity case for him. He knows that he is going for every place that he possibly can. He's going to be thinking about, where do I go? Johnson's already defending here through turn 10, very early on the defense, but you need to posture to get that, but the outside can hold. Look at Johnson, look at, round's going to go Jordan Johnson. He forced them out so wide, there was nowhere for Le Charité to go.
And again, he's stuck in a bad spot where he can't get turned around. He's watching carefully, does not look pleased about this entire situation. 2 into 1 just would not work in this case, and he falls to the very back of the field. I said with it being a street course, it may be a bit messy here today, but the driver's apparently not quite clean enough with it.
No, and it just goes to show you outbrake yourself once. Where's the car on the outside supposed to go? You've got to play very, very nicely with everyone else. Now, everyone's in the same sandpit as you, and it's very much like you go back to kindergarten, Joe. You've all got to learn to share.
Got to play together right. And unfortunately, someone's going to get a little bit of sand kicked in their eyes if they don't. As Dragata here just lost a spot to Caron, I think, in the number 6 as he comes through turn 1. Another big train of cars forming behind him. Aiden Young in there. Bellarmine is in there. Olsen, as well as newcomer Ferguson.
Yeah, Ferguson's been doing very well. Look at those position changes there. From 11th down to 14th. Nathan Olsen and Leonardo Dragota up 20 places each out there in this race. They are doing amazingly out there, but the front, very much a case of the top 3 will be the top 3 will be the top 3 at this point in time, with the 2.5 second gap that they've got. But I look around here at what Sean Campbell's got. I think he's just playing for time at the moment. There's no real worry at the moment. And we heard it earlier on last week from Mitchell de Jong. Worst place to be is at the front of the packs. You can't save the fuel. You can't save the tyres. You're doing all of the donkey work out there, very much like you're a domestique in the peloton, as this is Leonardo Dragota just overcooking it then into the final few corners there at turn 17. That's an easy pass done. But de Jong said, it's tougher for me at the front of the field. And Xander Reed, as far as the meta is, so to speak, here in the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup North America, is in the perfect seat.
And what did he learn from last week, missing out on that win? It's going to be a bit of a different situation because the hairpin is not quite like Sunset Bend. and you still got those back and forths to try and deal with before you get to the start-finish line. Michael Janney in the number 23, nearly getting to the bumper of La Charité for a brief moment, but that costs him some momentum. Antoine now just a bit out of reach.
Yep, so not going to be able to get this run into turn number 1 this time. Small dip down the hill as actually Michael Janney gets the fastest lap of 54.4 in the pocket there. So that will be something to write home about, that he's definitely got pace to go out there and use. He's now just got to try and find this pass, but struggles out of turn 3, and then you need these sections of 4, 5, and 6. This is testing the medium speed of these cars. How balanced are you? How can you throw it in through the corners? And look how wide they're going to go, Joe, through 7 into 8. In fact, that's very wide behind by Gregory Hoverson. He found himself out in the quote-unquote marina blue. There on the outside, there are 4 yachts that are parked on the inside of that. One of them is painted up in iRacing colours.
I did notice that in some of our footage as well. So yeah, the iRacing obviously having a bit of fun with some of the decorations around here. Meanwhile, Nathan Olson versus Bellarmine, the prototype driver, has made his way up to 14th. Can he go higher than that under braking down into turn 11? Not at least for this corner. He's got to watch out behind. Ferguson and Moniz are just there.
They are, and so patience is going to be a virtue. You know that it's very tough to make a pass here underneath the turnpike, so you've got to make sure that as you enter back onto 203, you now start wondering, okay, it's all about that run through the section. How close can I get through that left-hander and then be able to open up the taps and really go for it? And something that we haven't really talked about is anti-clockwise circuit. Now, most drivers in terms of comfort will prefer a clockwise circuit. An anti-clockwise circuit, there's something slightly offsetting about it to certain drivers.
Oh, that was close there for the 24. Zavadiel almost getting a punch in the back as he came down to the hairpin. That was Boucher, I believe, who had to take evasive action. La Charité, now our quickest driver on the track. Speed continuing to pick up, and we check in with Xander Reed. He's been getting very, very close down the back straight with that slipstream. I'm kind of curious, Jake, do you try to make the move into the hairpin, or do you wait to try to pull it out of it and see if you can out-drag your competitor?
Here's something quite interesting, Joe. Look at that screen that he's got. He's actually turned his mirrors off out there. He'll be using a virtual mirror, so effectively just using the rear view mirror instead of anything off of the side mirrors out there. He will also have the use of the black box relative that he's got out there. That will give the information to the drivers of this is where the car in front is, this is where the car behind is, and I'm sure that there'll be at least one spotter in and around who will also be looking to help out there or understand, okay, this is what we need to do, this is where some of our drivers are in this field behind, so don't worry about it, you've got to keep working. But I note Parker White in this situation, because on that last lap, Parker White did a 154.4, which was 4/10 quicker than the group in front. So that second group is trying to chase on up, and White is leading La Charité and Janney back to the leading 3. We could have a 6-pack challenge here for the race lead.
I'm kind of impressed with the 0.4 of a second lap difference. It's usually you don't see those sorts of lap time differences, especially at this level. Antoine maybe thought about it for a second, but I think you're right. It looks like they're probably trying to work together, knowing that they need to catch up. Minor contact responsibility, 5 seconds for the number 62. That is Troncoso.
It is, so he would have been dinged with that for lap 1. Aidan Pohl making the move, getting up then into 7th as Alex Johnson leaves the door ajar there for Gregory Hoverson. They'll go side by side through 2, but it's 3 that's the key corner where you get all of the load put through, gets the run. He is right up underneath. You can't get any more closer than that as they head towards turn 4. Watching on is Andrew Caron, the Canadian, trying to keep himself in play with Dragotta and Young and Olsen, all there, all thinking about where do we go in this group, and all of that battling there as there's another little nibble over towards the inside from the fiercely forward number 7. It's just meaning Aidan Pohl can start thinking about running away. Look at the damage there on the splitter on the front for Andrew Caron. That's going to be doing no favours here.
Love that move from the Falcon driver of Gregory Hovison. Coming up to the braking of turn 11, he leaves the door open, much like Johnson did. And Johnson also not going to defend that inside, as there goes Caron. And he's almost got the job done, but it switches back through 12. He'll be on the outside. Can he hang tough as it goes back into 13? Yes, he's got it done. And still the pain is not over for poor Alex Johnson. Now Dragata is going to try and mug him, and he gets by.
Yeah, there'll be another one now, because on the straight, Alex Johnson's going to be under pressure from Aiden Young. Young can't quite get there. Welcome to the freight train. How many carriages back do you want to go, sir?
I don't think he'd like any more, if I'm frank, but he just can't seem to stop it through that section. Something we'll have to note for later. If you are off the racing line, you are vulnerable.
Another one.
There it is. Car does not seem to be 100% right now.
Yeah, so Nathan Olsen jumps through, and Alex Johnson right now is realising backwards is not pretty. Here comes Bellarmine now to go and make this move, and this is going to be another car that's looking to try and unsettle. I just want to keep note here of this time that Alex Johnson just did a 158, which was about 3.3 seconds slower than Thomas Bellarmine on that last lap. Not because he was really, really slow, but that's how much time you lose by being out of position. Oh, that's a big hit into the wall there behind. That would have been, I believe, Daniel Ferguson.
It was Meniz going wheel to wheel in the meantime, coming down through the S's section with Ferguson. Wonder if that lost a little bit of momentum, but now they need to focus on the corner exit here of T7, or T6, I believe it is, and then coming onto the back straight. A little bit of an advantage for Ferguson. Meniz has the inside, though.
He does, and it's at turn 11 where you get that inside line, so you'll be very happy to note it here at this point in time. Meniz looking for this good run and thinking, okay, well, how good's it going to be on the brakes? They're fighting behind as well. That's De Neuer and Polisek, and Ferguson here still holds his mark. Meniz has got himself the drive, and now will have the position up the hill for the one-line Sul chicane over the top of 14, 15 into 16 has got the run. Remember that De Neuer out there has got the fresher tyres after making that stop under the safety car. So in the last 15 minutes, he is going to be a driver to certainly note for at least a handful of points. That's going to be the aim, get a handful of points.
Tell you what, Meniz's eyes were as big as dinner plates from that onboard view. Let's take a look at a replay in the meantime. And there is Ferguson just glancing against the wall. Now, for those not familiar with the sim, if you see a piece fall off and reattach, that is essentially the server side re-communicating what actually happened. Because remember, we're working at the speed of the internet here, so sometimes what you see the cars doing is a close enough estimation to what is actually happening with the car, and it needs a fraction of a second to really update that information. Aiden Pohl here being attacked by Andrew Caron, and then Leonardo Dragata still right on top of him, continuing to look for more spots.
Well, he's up to 10th, he wants 9th, and he wants 8th as well, and Aiden here is just trying to get that Kaizen Esports number 43 as stable as it can be out there, knowing that Gregory Hovison has found a way through. You start wondering when you are the driver who is maybe struggling a little bit compared to the drivers around, what do I need to do to wrest back some control? I think that's the position that you start sitting in right now. Where do I wrest control? Speaking of control, I'm officially going to say it, Joe. With 12 and a half minutes to go, it's a group of 6 for the lead. Oh, that'll be why.
Yeah, looks like a little bit of an incident there, and Aiden Pohl now finds himself down in 8th, just behind Hovison. And you're right that Parker White, that last lap, another 10th quicker. He was 2/10 the previous, and he is now within 6/10 of a second of the lead group.
I think we're going to see an instant here for Guy Levesque here, down the inside through turn 12, and now trying to get through 13. This is with William Rasmussen by the looks of things, and no room to go, trying to avoid the slowdown penalty, and ultimately gets into the side. It comes in, and that is so dangerous there from Guy Levesque. You do not cross a live circuit like that trying to rejoin there. That is as unsafe as an unsafe rejoin will be, and I'm sure the stewards will ding him for that every day and twice here on a Thursday morning, Wednesday night.
Yeah, I have a feeling there are going to be a few conversations with drivers after this one between themselves and race control. Pole still working to try and get that 7th place back from Hovesen, who is holding on to that P7. This is all within the points. Top 15 will score, remember. So these drivers can't throw away a good opportunity. At the same time, they got to scratch and claw for each and every point.
And those top 3 in the championship as well, by themselves, a free ticket out there to Porsche's regional championship qualifiers, which, if you can get yourself through those, will put you in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. So it's a huge opportunity out there as you take a look at Logan Ragione. Is he going to be over this curb? Look at how much the car has bounced over that curb and the sparks that have come off of the front. And I think maybe something's dislodged or damaged. Oh, pole around there at turn 11, and that's going to be a horrible bit of work for him. Straight out the points. He's been doing so well.
Oh, where does he fall? 23rd, it looks like, by the time he is able to rejoin. A critical mistake late in this race. We're closing in on the final quarter of the event. So we will take a look to see what put him in that position down at turn 11. And did he get some help, or did he just outbrake himself? He's to the inside of the 33. Hovesen tries to shut the door. They make a little bit of contact.
I think that's all right. I don't think Gregory's done anything wrong. He's left a car's width there on the inside for Aiden to go through. I think he was slightly hot trying to make the move. There has been a bit of contact. We know that Aiden's been in a car that's been a bit bouncier than most, maybe from what happened in the early stages. So I think that he just lost out there, got the wrong end of the stick, and basically he just got bumped off like a linebacker.
Well, here is confirmation of what you were saying before. Parker White is now within 0.3 of a second of Campbell. So the train for first goes all the way back to P6 with Michael Janney included in that group. Parker's caught up to them, but much like a dog chasing a car, once you catch it, what do you do with it? Now, what does he do?
At the moment, I think he's got to work where is the right place to be. I argue second is, so he's got to try and get to make these moves, and he's got to make them cleanly and effectively at this point in the race. You can't go 2, 3, 4 corners side by side. You'll drop a second quicker than a whisper. So you've got to make sure you find those passes, and this is what happens with a group like this. They stay in the line, they look for a way to try and get through, and ultimately you sit down and you try and say, look, where am I going to find this opportunity? Xander Reed's in the best place possible. He's second, he's just watched Mitchell de Jong. I think he's waiting for the run out of here on the final lap of this race. But at this point in time, if you're Campbell, if you're White, if you're Le Charité, if you're Michael Janney, you're trying to position yourself to be in the best place. If you're not in the best place, then you're going to have to sit back and say, well, I'm hoping for fireworks on the final lap, and I'm looking to try and pick up the scraps at the bottom of the table.
And to tell you the versatility of this series, that trophy that you see in the background, that is the Dale Jr. trophy for the eNASCAR champion. Parker White took that home in 2024, yet you can throw him over on the road course side, and look at this, just as competitive as he's currently running just outside the podium positions, but waiting patiently as we cross the line with about 8 minutes left to go.
Well, Parker White is one of the great all-rounders out there. He can do it on the road, he can do it on the ovals, you can put him in anything, he will be lightning fast. He reminds me of the likes of a PJ Sturgios or a Jake Sturgios, two fantastic American sim racers back from the 2010s, about 2015, 2016, they were in the World Championships, and they were in pretty much everything. Parker White, same mold, can drive anything, and he's lightning fast, and I think he has no worries about where he is at the moment in this race. He just knows, I've got to get the points, I've got to find a way to start scoring. But for the moment, you turn around, you look at the clock, and here's the thing, Old Father Time doesn't wait for anybody in this race.
Exactly. And as much as you might want to try and wait and strike at the right time, it might wind up being too late. You're going to have to take the opportunities when they present themselves. Parker White's going to know that, but so will Sean Campbell. He's been hovering in that third spot this whole race, Now, it just got so much more complicated for this 26. It's no longer a matter of watching in front of him and trying to decide when to strike. He also has to try and defend if anybody behind him gets greedy.
Well, he will sit and look at this group and think, I know how Zander drives. I definitely know how Mitchell de Jong drives. So he will know and build up a character in his mind where he expects to, because he's been sat in the back the entire race. He'll know how to deal with it. Meanwhile, you look at this, Dragotta onto the outside now, trying to get by Andrew Caron. Caron holds the inside line well, gets a better drive off the exit. You start thinking, well, I know what I'm expecting from them. Now, how do I do the unexpected? Dragotta absolutely motoring here. It's going to have to go the long way around turn one. Caron very far on the inside on this defense. The drive's going to be there through turn two, and suddenly you're turning around and going, well, where's the place? A little bit too bouncy over the inside curve. Now's going to need to try and pick this up through 4 and 5 here as Dragotta, and suddenly he's turning around and looking about Nathan Olsen. He might want in. So too will Aiden Young. Leonardo Dragotta still trying. He'll have the inside now at 7 and 8. Finally, he'll get him dispatched. What a move.
Looked like it took maybe just a little bit of light contact between them, but that opens the door, and it's going to be Nathan Olsen who mugs them both. How in the world did he make that one stick? He moves into 8th.
Well, I will say it's his team. It's Maradnus out there in the middle of the pack, and so everyone's now starting to think for themselves. In the words of good old JR, business has just picked up, and now they're 2 wide, 3 deep as they head themselves into turn 11. Alex Johnson in the middle of this. Olsen holding off Dragotta. Now it's to the outside here from the likes of Alex Johnson. He will get the pass done on Andrew Caron, who tags the wall heavily there up into 13 and 14. There's a checkup now.
Belleman's going to try and take advantage of it. He gets down to the inside. Oh, but they come together, and they're going to wind up turning Belleman around. Drivers avoiding as they get by. Alex Johnson gets to run away laughing with that position, and Floyd Kerr able to go by as there is Jordan Eyre as well. Eventually, Caron is turned around, or excuse me, Belleman is turned around and running, but he's out of the points now.
That's a big instant bang. It's a huge crash there for Jean-Edouard Maillot, who's caught up in a massive accident down at turn 17. So that's going to give huge amounts of dramas late, because with 4 minutes to go, that's the sort of incident that could throw a safety car out there. But with 4 minutes to go, there wouldn't be enough time to finish the race. They'd finish it neutralized.
They do have a rule in this series that the caution cannot be thrown in the final 15 minutes so that it does not finish under safety car. So they should stay green from here on out. Unfortunately, for those involved in those incidents, it does mean that they are going to find themselves losing a lot of spots. I'm trying to collect myself, honestly, because there is so much that has just happened. It sounds like we have another replay of some of the incidents that we just witnessed. So let's take a look and see what got us here. Zavadil, car was to the inside. Oh, and who was that? Just the innocent victim.
There's nothing you can do there. Zavadil, they were fighting for real estate there and getting really close up together. The moment there's any overlap, then you're just trying to get yourself out of it. It's very difficult. You can't, and there's the trouble. Dane Neuer, who was in the pits and at the back of the train on the restart, now up fighting. Look at that move then, just cutting up and under here on Daniel Ferguson. Is going to get the run off the exit, and they will duel on the straight all the way over. And look at this, let's make it 3. Why don't we? Christian Muniz says room for one more. This is going to be about who's bravest, and they need to be the last of the late breakers here to go and make this happen. Inside would dictate normally who takes the corner, and they all match each other on the brakes. There's just enough room between them. Find your sandwich point, and there's still 3 wide. Brilliant.
Oh, how did they hold on to that? It's going to cross the line with all 3 line astern, and eventually they'll get back to 2 wide. Big defense down to the inside from Daniel Ferguson, and now it's going to be 4 cars involved in this, but sweeping the long way around, it looks like De Noyers has got himself that 12th place.
Polisek was the one getting involved there, takes a tap through turn 2. Andrew Caron back in. Ross O'Connor, now who started 10th on this race, is now looking to try and get through. This is for a point, or maybe a little bit more. There's going to be some very unhappy bridesmaids to the 5 brides in this group.
And Ferguson, remember, he jumped in as one of the drivers just squeaking through in the pre-qualifying because enough drivers did not show today. So his first race of the season, and he might score points. What a splash as Caron, farther back, finds himself now in the midst of Boucher, as well as Cole and Connor, all trying to sort themselves out. But we're getting so close to the end of this race. In fact, I think we're going to get the white flag next time by.
We very much are, because the leaders are heading their way right now on Northwest 203 Street, and they're looking over to that junction with Carl F. Barger Boulevard, and they're going to try and get as much as they can. Xander Reed has been in the pocket of Mitchell de Jong all race, but the one thing we note, Joe, in sim racing, it doesn't matter whether you lead for a corner or you lead for an entire race. What matters is by the time that clock hits 0, you get back to the line first. White flags in the air. Mitchell de Jong, watch out, because it's exactly the same scenario as 7 days ago.
Will he again be able to hold off Xander Reed? But he's also got Sean Campbell there, Parker White, LaCharité. Looks like Janney has actually dropped off a little bit back there. I think it's about 1.2 seconds between himself and 5th place at this stage, as he lost an opportunity. Clock hit 0. It is now the final lap, and watching them come up towards the back straightaway, lining it up. Where will we see Xander Reed try to make a move?
Well, he's struggling a bit for pace because it's now 3.5 tenths of a second. He's going to need a monster run here along the back straight if he wants to make something happen adjacent to 199. So he'll look around at the group and he'll realise he's got a gap here, because Parker White will be eyeing up, trying to get to P3 here, and there's going to be no chances of a move. Everyone's got everyone scouted, so it's about how good this complex is, Joe. It's about how good Xander Reed can get into these corners, and look at him. He is right up on the bumper then of Mitchell de Jong, but he gets a fantastic run, does Mitchell, up over through this section, and now with just this corner left, it's all about this drive.
He gets a pretty decent drive, but Mitchell de Jong was better. The slipstream, is it powerful enough? Sean Campbell also watching. He could try and snatch it from both of them if he does a perfect over-under, and they're side by side. It's all going to come down to this last hairpin as they approach the braking. Xander is not quite there. Neither is Sean Campbell. He actually manages to make a little bit of contact with Mitchell de Jong. But as they exit the corner, it is going to be a perfect 2 for 2 for Mitchell de Jong to start the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup North America Series.
Big smile there for Mitchell de Jong. That meant a lot. That win there, you could see there, he had himself with a very happy smile on his face. But I think there for Xander Reed, he was left in an awkward position. He couldn't go and lunge for the inside there, Joe, at the final corner, because if he did, the question will be from the team, what happens if Sean Campbell sneaks his way down the inside? I think Xander realised if he didn't have overlap, he's not going for that move. And so I think it was very wise from Xander. He takes the points, but he'll know he'll have to carry it over to Watkins Glen next week.
Stewards will no doubt have their hands full after this one. There was a lot of beating and banging. I'm actually impressed we didn't see more drive-through penalties for incident limits out there, because remember, I think it was 20 before you are sent down the lane. Thankfully, it looks like we managed to avoid it for pretty much everybody that I could see. But Mitchell de Jong will come away with the victory once again, with the same 1-2 as we saw, but a different third-place sitter this time in Sean Campbell.
It's a really good result for Sean Campbell. It's a great result down the field. Talk about those gainers out there. Dragotta gets a top 10. You know, Kevin Denoyer was at the back on that restart. He's up to 12th. Huge results there for various drivers out there in this field. And it goes to show you, this is a cutthroat championship.
Is it ever? Let's take a look at our results for today's race now that everybody has managed to cross the line. And up at the top of it, it was Mitchell de Jong taking the win over Xander Reed. A little bit of a bigger gap, but still only 0.2 of a second between them at the line. Sean Campbell finishes off your podium. Parker White with another 4th place, as Antoine Lacharite will finish in P5, Janney in 6. Hoveson, P7 for him, despite having many cars trying to take that away from him late in the race. Nathan Olson gets P8 behind him. Alex Johnson 9th, and Leonardo Dragata was P10.
Well, 34th to 8th there for Nathan Olson. If you had driver of the day, that he would be that, and then some. Aiden Young in 11th with Kevin Desnoyers 12th. Daniel Ferguson, they're just 4 tenths behind him with Christian Moniz. And Michael Polisek gets the final point by just under 1/10 of a second there. Ross O'Connor, close but no cigar. Charles-Etienne Boucher will be 17th with Andrew Caron, Jordan Eyre, and Jean-Edouard Maillot, who had that massive hit into the side of him. Then he could have fought for points as well here on today's running at Miami.
From 21st, it was Aiden Pohl out there today as Floyd Kerr finished in 22nd. Thomas Belleman was looking for a good finish, but a late race incident sent him down to 23rd. Paul Darling, 24th, as Aaron Myers, P25. Jaden Munoz, 26th, with Guy Levesque in 27th, and Jordan Johnson, last one on the lead lap, in 28th. George Griffiths, 2 laps down to 29th. Dalton Zavadil, 3 laps down in 30th, with our last few drivers definitely suffering some problems, such as Denise Chasson, Dial, Ragioni, Rasmussen, Troncoso, and Landry. In fact, a number of those were DNFs in the end. I believe we've got Mitchell ready to talk to us. Let's have a chat with our race winner in the number 48. And Mitchell, I have to ask, because we've now noticed that 2 weeks in a row, your starts have been pretty darn good. What is the secret that you guys have found on these race starts?
Honestly, I have no idea. I was surprised on that start as well. Thankfully, just got a little bit of a better run there, or quicker reaction, and was able to just get down the inside real quick. So, and yeah, it seemed like there's a lot of carnage on the outside. So I'm happy with where I was. Yeah, kind of lucked out on that one, but you know, we take it. That's racing.
Now, you had a similar situation to last week in terms of yourself and your teammate 1-2. You mentioned to us that it's always difficult to be the leader. Did you take any lessons from Sebring that helped you today? Because it was a little less close at the line.
Yeah, thankfully this week, the track seems to be a little bit kinder on the tires. So we didn't really see a big difference between leading and being behind. Obviously, there's a big pace advantage being behind still. But as long as like the front cars kind of, you know, doing their thing, pulling the field along, we can kind of try to stay stretched out. So effectively, it was the same game plan. We just go as fast as we can just to keep the field strung out. And Xander would push me every now and then to, you know, in case I make a mistake or something. So yeah, I'm thankful that I had a little bit of a gap there into the last corner because, you know, we don't have any team orders. Like if he was close enough, he was for sure going down the inside. So I got lucky there. But yeah, no, it was really good to have another awesome like 1-2 result with us. And then also we had Michael back. I think he finished 6th. So yeah, that was a really good day for us.
So with Coanda managing to lock out the 1-2 in both of the first races, do you guys have a target on your back now? Do you think all the other teams are going to be regrouping and really focusing their efforts now?
I'm sure. I mean, as much as it is like a team thing between us, you know, it is an individual championship, right? So for us, all we can do is work hard together and get the most out of ourselves. And I think that's probably the case for other groups and stuff like that as well. So I imagine it's probably similar, but yeah, it's nice to have kind of the upper hand, at least initially, and just keep fighting, you know, keep learning more about this car. It's still a brand new car for a lot of us. So, you know, we just keep pushing and seeing what we can get.
Well, congratulations on the win. Enjoy some celebrations here in Miami.
Thank you very much.
That was your winner, Mitchell de Jong, followed home by Xander Reed for the second race in a row, and it looks like Jake has caught up with him.
Yeah, I just want to note as well, did you see that Porsche wheel that was there on the back for Mitchell de Jong? It looked absolutely wonderful back there on the display. Zander, we're going to become friends like this if we continue with this. It's 2 second places in a row for you. But I think we have to go all the way back to the start of this race to say just how difficult the race is to begin with, because you're 3 or 4 wide every time off this restart. How aggressive is everyone having to be just to get places in the early goings?
Yeah, it definitely gets a little spicy into T1 here with such a tight corner, and always cold tires always make everything interesting. But yeah, everyone held their own at the front, and there wasn't any big issues that I had with anyone. Like I felt like it was pretty good.
You pretty much spent the entire race staring at the back of your own teammate, and by the time you got round to turn 17 on the final lap, there looked like there could have been a chance you could have thrown it down the inside, but was there too much of a threat from Sean Campbell behind to go for the Hail Mary, or were you just happy to take the points and move on over towards Watkins Glen?
Yeah, I was pretty content with P2 for now. I didn't want to cause any chaos with me or Mitchell and lose a bunch of positions or cause a crash or something, so I wanted to just keep the 1-2 for the team and just move on to Watkins Glen.
How difficult is practice going to be for next week? Because I understand that Coanda's going to be quite busy with Sebring, and a lot of the teams are going to be wanting to try and get 12-hour success as well. So when you've got 6 races in 6 weeks, the schedule just doesn't move for anything, does it? How do you look to manage the time most effectively?
Yeah, just make sure you're doing quality laps over quantity. For me, that's the best way to go about it if you're doing 2 series. Yeah, just make sure you're putting in quality laps and getting the most out of the limited time you have.
Well, back-to-back second place finishes. It's certainly a lucky omen with the backwards cap there. Zander Reed joining us, having a wonderful day's worth of racing again. And Joe, I believe you found your way over to Sean Campbell in third.
We have indeed. Sean, you were holding on to those 2 for pretty much the entire race, but we saw you kind of hanging back a little bit. Now, were you giving them a little bit of room, or was that your maximum and you just couldn't get any closer?
Trying to run away from everybody, honestly. I was very scared of how powerful the... So, if we could just run single file and build a little gap, chill, I would be happy. Is my microphone cutting in?
It is a little bit. We're hearing most of it.
Let me turn off. Yeah, it's really quiet. What the heck?
Well, we did get most of it, thankfully, while you're fiddling with that. The other thing I want to know about is the start, because you put it on pole, then suddenly you had Coanda on either side of you, and you also get hit from behind. How did you manage that situation and not lose your cool?
I was very worried, I'll be honest. In that regard as well, because I think I got tapped a little bit. I haven't looked at it yet. I think I got tapped in turn 1, as far as I remember, and then I kind of pushed Xander wide a little bit. I was very nervous about that, going 3 wide into turn 2 potentially. But it seemed to work out pretty good.
Yeah, you guys all got away with it. I was honestly impressed. I thought as soon as you got hit from behind that you were going to get sent off into the side with Mitchell. And I think it was Xander to the outside rather. But towards the end, Parker caught up to you. With you, it just being you 3 originally, when that group of cars catches up, does that change your approach to the latter half of the race? Do you have to play a bit of a rear guard, or you still focus forward?
Yeah, I was really worried about watching the Delta and Parker catching up most of the race. I think I started being really worried about it when he was less than a second back, because now it's like, it's not just I have to keep up with Mitchell and Xander, right? It's now I have to not lose third as well. And I think if he was going to send it really, really hard, I would have been willing to let him go. I don't really particularly want to get shuffled back, like kind of what happened at Sebring potentially. But yeah, I was worried, but he didn't end up going for the bomb, and I think we're good.
Definitely a nice rebound from the results at Sebring. Congratulations on a top 3.
Thanks.
That was Sean Campbell finishing P3 today. But as we heard Jake mention, Watkins Glen, another very fast track, another track where the barriers are quite close to the wall, but not a street circuit. And it is a classic, a favorite amongst many. That'll be on April 1st. No, it's not a joke. That will really be our race at 8:55 p.m. Eastern when it kicks off. Looking forward to that one, Jake, because, well, we had such an exciting first round. I think maybe the drivers got a little caught up in the adrenaline tonight. I wouldn't say it was messy, but there is definitely a few drivers that maybe didn't have the results they could have gotten.
I would say it was elbows out. I would say that looked like it was the rush to get out of Florida rather than for many of those drivers the chance to want to try and stay. But I think those drivers who found themselves in the wrong place, it's a long drive up to Seneca Lake in New York. It's going to be, for those drivers, I think, a chance to really reflect over this week. And if you're really looking at, you know, what the circuit profile's like between Miami and Watkins Glen, you are correct. There's not very much difference to it, despite the fact that one was built in the 1950s or 30s into the 1950s with the current layout, and then the other one was built only about, what, four years ago maximum? So you're starting to understand that these drivers are going to go to a track that is very well known, that everyone knows it's full of overtaking, but critically, it's the fact that they're not running a classic layout. They're running the boot layout with the chicane. So they're going to take that best overtaking opportunity. It's going to be a little bit tougher to get that pass. And so I think you just got to sit down, understand that opportunities are going to be very much, again, like tonight, very tough to try and manage. You're just going to have to be patient. You're going to have to find the opportunities out there. And critically, Joe, as you set up the move and try and get the passes, it's not just where you are, it's when you are.
That's right. Timing is everything, especially in a race at Watkins Glen. So make sure and tune in for that one. But a big thank you, of course, to everybody here that helped put this on, including our team behind the scenes, Jake, Daniel, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure subscribe to our channel here on YouTube so you don't miss a moment. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.
This is the new 911 Cup, a 520 horsepower flat six purpose-built race car.
Redline, nearly 9,000 RPM. Put 20 of them together, you get Carrera Cup, one of the longest running international race series on the planet. Every driver gets the same car, same engine, same aero, and in America, the same Pirelli tire. Modifications, not allowed. So when the green flag drops, there's nowhere to hide. It comes down to the driver. Have racecraft? Good, you're gonna need it. For 30 years, this series has tested the best drivers around the globe.
Nailing a lap in one of these, there is no substitute.